Hi, my name's David Minford and I'm here today to deliver my individual oral presentation for English A1. The title of my presentation is "To what extent does Pat Barker suggest that traditional social barriers have been expanded or eradicated during the course of World War I?" In Regeneration, Pat Barker depicts a society where female freedoms, although seemingly expanding, are still limited by the patriarchal mores of World War I Britain. On a superficial level, women in the novel do appear to be growing more empowered. If we take Sarah, who might be said to be potentially representative of young women at this time in Britain, she certainly seems to be characterized by Pat Barker as a self-confident and independent young woman who is free to explore the world around her as she desires. For example, she appears to have gained economic freedom. She's moved away from the shelter as well as the social restrictions of her parents' home and has taken up profitable employment. Indeed, she now earns 5 times what she did pre-war, and she seems to be able to pay not only for her rent and board, but also to be able to go out and enjoy herself with her friends, as of course we see illustrated in the cafe scene where she first encounters Billy Pryor. Another example of Sarah perhaps seeming to be empowered is the degree she enjoys social and sexual freedom, the way in which she's able to direct a meeting, a romantic meeting, and control the degree of intimacy that that meeting will involve. When we look at this, particularly that first meeting and that second meeting with Billy, her behaviour towards Billy at that first meeting is that of a controlled and self-confident equal. This in many ways reverses the typical gender roles of that time. She approaches him, not vice versa, with a cool, amused stare, and introduces herself in a direct, almost boyish way by holding out her hand. What's more, she does most of the talking during this first meeting, dominating the conversation, and she talks to Pryor in a brisk, almost aggressive manner, while her often crude dialogue is forthright and honest, including, interestingly enough, a consideration of whether romantic love actually exists. In the context of this flirtatious encounter, strongly suggests that Sarah's interest here is not in some passive experience of being chivalrously rescued and wooed by some handsome prince. Her interest is in a real, intimate and physical experience, as she says, to Madge later. One second whilst I find my notes. I knew what he was after. I just want to know why he's not still after it. She's not interested in playing what might be termed the more traditional game of coquettish pretense. There are other ways in which Sarah obviously shows her confidence, as I was referring to before. She controls the degree of intimacy in her first encounter with Billy, and in her second. She's happy to flirt and to accompany him to the graveyard for some heavy petting, but when she feels it has gone far enough, she says so confidently and definitively. It's no surprise that in her company, Barker has Pryor reflect on how women have expanded. Obviously, Sarah has given him this impression specifically, and the diction here of expanded suggests how figuratively not only that women have grown beyond what they were previously, but that previously they were somehow confined. Obviously, in order for someone to expand, it must somehow have been kept smaller before. So what we can conclude on one level is that Sarah does appear to represent to us how much women have changed, have expanded. She's a confident young woman, able to control her life, choose where she lives, choose who she goes out with, how she spends her money. She seems to be independent.